to do business in New York and to do businesses in the state, it's very costly. It's not easy to be presented in the state nowadays and to do business, even though in a small volume in different prudence. You have to be under, like exactly what Bob said, which regulation you're going to be. And you have to implement the whole regulation. And you have to be on top of all the technology which is already here. يعني اما بنك مصر والبنك الاهلي عملوا ابديت للسيستم بتاعهم. كل واحد عمل كومبلين والدنيا كانت، لان هم الوحيدين اللي ما يقدرش يشتغل على تيست سيستم. ما يقدرش يشتغل بارل سيستم. انا ما اقدرش اعمل هنا، انا لازم اشتغل تيست سيستم لمده 3 شهور. البنك الاهلي ما يقدرش يشتغل على 6 مليون اكونت تيست سيستم على تو سيستم سيم داي ويعمل ريكونسيليشن. فلازم تعرف انت حجمك ايه وبتعمله ازاي. عشان كده كل مره احنا بنقول مش لازم اجيب واحد بخواجه من بره يقول لي انا عارف اكتر، انا عارف انا هعالج نفسي ازاي. يعني كنت بتناقش كتير جدا مع زمايلنا في الاي تي هناك، تقدروا تعملوا ده ازاي، وشرحوا لي. انا كنت معترض ان انت ما تقدرش تعمل كده، ده كده انت هتخسر كتير. قال لك خسارتي اللي هعملها اقدر ريكفر، بس انا ما اقدرش اعمل اللي انت بتقوله. انا هنا ما اقدرش اشتغل بالطريقه دي، ما اقدرش اشتغل من غير تيست سيستم. يعني انا بعمل ابديت للسيستم بتاعي جست ريجولار ابديت، هشتغل تيست سيستم 3 شهور. لان لو الريجليتور لو جم وشاف التيست سيستم وشاف الريكونسيليشن بتاعي وشاف ان التو سيستم ايدنتيكال اتس فاين. لكن لو انا طلعت لايف من غير ما اعمل تيست سيستم وان انا بروف ان انا ريكونسايل، لا انا عندي بيج بروبلم.
State come out with the regulation 504. So basically the bank every year has to recertify. So we have a CISO in Egypt that we put directly to the board, and the resolution wants the board to be involved. They have to give us enough resources, and they have to make sure that they review our procedures, our policy and program. So every year we have to assess the bank risk assessment, the cybersecurity risk assessment, and we use what it's called a CAT analysis. It's a government agency that developed it. Basically we look at the service and product that we provide, what we do, and also we look at the infrastructure. Basically we have to make sure the customer information are not breached, that our infrastructure, we use firewalls to prevent damage, antivirus, and also our password policies. Okay, access control, we don't give access to just anybody. Everybody in the bank have separate access, and it's controlled, and we'll be certified that every year. So after we do that every year, we have to go to the website of the government to certify that we do this. And this is something every 15 of the year, February 15, we have to do that.
I have key entities 3. الفيدرال ريزيرف بورد اوف جفرنرز اللي هو مجلس المحافظين، والفيدرال ريزيرف بانكس دول 12 بنك، والفيدرال اوبن ماركت كوميتي اللي في مصر بيسموها لجنه تحديد سعر الفايده او ايوه اللي هي الاف او ام سي.
So I'm an artist based in New York, and all of my works, and you will see why this is important in a moment. My works, unlike most sort of contemporary art that you see, it's not sort of about me and my feelings and whatever, but it's about real topics, real things that happen in the world. So one work that I did was about Germans of today in the shadow of, you know, the Nazi past, which is still a big topic, of course. Another work, of which you'll see actually 2 pictures here, is about colonialism. Then I had just done a work on Rome, and then on ancient Rome. And then my wife and I went on vacation in Egypt. And we really went just as tourists. I didn't know much about ancient Egypt, just the usual things that most people know. You know, I'd heard of Akhenaten and Nefertiti and all these things, but nothing much.
And the regulators are getting closer together across the globe and sort of supporting each other in the fight against anti-money laundering and terrorism. Now, sanctions obviously a huge portion of it, and what has happened in the last couple of days with the U.S. government pulling out of the Iran deal, this is obviously going to heighten things again. You know, sanctions are going to be put in place, and it's going to increase the scrutiny that's happening with all transactions going through. We've seen a huge increase in the number of fines here in the U.S. for banks over the last number of years. And it's important to remember that the the new regulations that have come through, and particularly as we relate here to the new 504, the Department of Financial Services in New York, which most of the banks in New York are regulated by.
What's the value of cryptocurrencies? What their value is, lots of things. You don't need a government to create them. Anyone can mine bitcoins as long as you've got some really good computers and a lot of electricity. The other currencies, and there are thousands now being created, most of which are fraudulent and not worth the creation, but anyone can create an algorithm who has a sophistication. But you don't need quantum computing to break a simple algorithm. So if you're creating your own coin, or they're also called tokens, anyone who has at least the same level of computational skill as you have can probably hack you. And it's susceptible to being hacked both at the source as well as the code. The code is much harder to hack because, again, it's this very complicated algorithm. But there have been some very large robberies. I think the Central Bank of Bangladesh was hacked for something like $81 million of bitcoins. And the currency exchanges have been hacked. Because, again, you need the key. Well, if you forget the key, you are screwed. If you've lost the key, you are screwed. You may have $10 million worth of bitcoins on your computer, and everyone says, well, put the key in a safe place, don't lose it. You know, how many of us have put something like their keys in a place where they be sure not to lose it, and then can't remember where that is?
Many.
What was happening?
Many, actually.
Now, if that's $10 million, it's a lot worse than having to go to the locksmith.